Hey guys, this is 5 a.m. here with another video from the Glitch Kitchen, and it's been a while. I haven't posted in a long time, so I figured I'd just post a new tutorial up just to show that I'm still here and I've still got big plans for this channel. And today what I want to talk about is how I do stuttery, glitchy basses that are often used in the bass music genres of glitch hop and psy dub and psy glitch dub hop. And I'm going to start with an instance of operator, and I'm just going to make a nice bass waveform in operator. And I'm going to start with a low F, so just a nice subwave. And then I'm going to draw in harmonics over in the oscillator panel of oscillator A. I'm just going to, just for fun, kind of like pick some random places, and that just makes the waveform a little bit more complex. And then for the rest of the complexity, we're going to add another oscillator, oscillator B, which is routed in a series over here in the routings. I'm going to turn up the level of oscillator B, and I set the chorus to 2. So just kind of introduces a little bit more complexity, a few more harmonics in specific places, but it's a little too weighted toward the low mids. So I'm going to add some upper harmonics, which will kind of like space out the harmonics that are added, maybe even reduce the fundamental. So as you reduce the fundamental, you actually give it like a tonal change toward the high end. So that's something I like to play with a lot as I work. And then I dial in the level again. So it's just playing around between like the spectrum drawing here and the level. And you can find some nice places. What I'm going to do here, sometimes I'll draw in automation, but for this I'm just going to adjust the level of oscillator B using the LFO. So first I'm going to deactivate the LFO on the filter. We're going to process that separately later in the chain, but I'm going to adjust the level of oscillator B using the LFO. So I'll just demonstrate what that sounds like. So you can hear how that introduces a little more movement to the sound. Now I'm going to do some notch filtering using autofilter. I like to search in the places bar, and then that helps me kind of just bring up the device that I need. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to pick kind of a random rate, kind of something a little bit slow, and then a decent amount on the LFO, and then I'll find a cool frequency where it's scrolling through some nice harmonics. So you can hear it starting to fold the spectrum a little bit. So like here it is without the autofilter. It's kind of like an open spectrum. And then the autofilter kind of creates that shape just kind of like scrolls through the spectrum, so you can hear the harmonics disappear and come back. And we're going to do one more thing before we add the special ingredient. We're going to do 2 parallel band passes. So I brought out an autofilter, set it to band pass. Then I'm going to group that autofilter. Command G puts it in a group. I'm going to go over to this little list icon, which opens up the chains where you can Command D on the existing chain to create another one. And with this one, all you need to do is change the frequency. And we're also going to change the rate. And I'm going to copy to siblings. Or actually, we don't need to do that, but we're going to copy the amount to siblings. This one's rate is going to be 0.23. This one's rate can be something slightly different, so they kind of phase in and out. I kind of like to do that with parallel bandpass filters. You know, as you do when you're doing parallel bandpass filters. Everybody knows that. JK. Now I'm going to play that note again. You can change the rates and the amounts to your liking. I'm going to increase the rate and the amount. There's a lot of room for creativity here. What I would really encourage is playing around with effects, different processing. In this case, what I'm going to do with like different processing between the two chains. You can even just call this one like these. They're not really like high and low. Like they can morph. You can use max LFOs to change the rates of the frequencies. So you could just call this one like thing 1, and then this one thing 2. And they could just be doing two totally different things. So like maybe on one of them we can put auto pan. You can kind of, you can maybe automate the rate there if you want. And you have a central. So now we're starting to get like maybe this is a stereo one, and then this one's your central one. So the central one could maybe something to give it a little more like toothy aspect, like Sound Toys Decapitator for a little bit of tube distortion. I'm gonna deactivate the auto. So what it does is as you turn up the drive here, it'll turn down the output. So I want to keep the output up. So I uncheck the auto, which means it doesn't adjust the output automatically. And I'm just going to give a little bit of a push with the drive knob, turn the tone up a little bit, and I tend to like the E setting. These are all just different amp settings. So here's without, and then with it. Just going to dial it up a little bit more. Yeah, I like the way that's kind of pulling out some grit from that sound. I'm going to turn the gain down a little bit on that channel just so they're balanced a little better. And actually I might want to reverse these. I might want the stereo one to be the one that's hitting the lower frequencies of these two. This one's kind of going higher and lower, and maybe that's cool. But I'm going to move this lower, and then I'm going to raise this band here. That's a little harsh. Maybe I'll keep this where it is. Alright, now there is a very important step. I'm going to pull out an arpeggiator. I'm going to put it before that whole chain. So what this arpeggiator is going to do is it's going to re-trigger that note at every interval set by the rate knob. And the gate here is a knob that controls the time at which it will send note off signals. So you can make it send a note off signal right away, or you can make it sustain the note for a little longer than it actually would and then send a note off. So you can play with that, and you can play with your envelope, maybe make it longer or shorter. So I'm just going to record in one note at 30-second notes. I'm going to change my BPM to 85 here just for fun to give a little bit of, or maybe 80. 16th notes sound better at 80. And let's try 16th. Let's see how that sounds. Alright, so we did want the 30-second notes, because that's going to sound like this. Just for fun, let's bring in a little break beat, just because we can. I have some break beats that I store in my sample packs. I'm going to do all the breaks. So I'm just going to make this into a quick little, here, let's drag this into the kick just for expediency. We want this to be on the 1, and we're going to set one here, and then I'm just going to let it sort itself out a little bit. It probably has a warp marker at the end. We don't want that. We want to warp it from warp from here. Oh, no. You sometimes gotta give a little hand. It's good enough. And I set the beat warp. I set the warping algorithm to beats, and then I set the envelope style to just cut off instead of loop, and then I reduced the decay of every transient. So that's maybe you can turn the tempo down a bit. Maybe we want less of a gate here on this bass, so it now we're going to add a few more effects onto this bass, just to get it hitting in some nicer places in the spectrum and in the stereo field. So put a little bit of a phaser on that. Maybe we want a phaser before the whole thing. That'd be kind of interesting. It's very experimental. Really isn't any rules here. What I want is a little bit of compression, so I'm going to use this multiband compressor called OTT. I believe it's free from Xfer Records. They also make, I don't know if it's Records. I think it might be Xfer Records, but they also make Serum. They're Steve Duda's company. Very well maintained, good working plugins. And what that's done is it's pulled out a lot of the high end. What this compressor is really good at, in my opinion, is just boosting the high end of a sound, and the depth is the degree to which, that's kind of the way I use it. I know it is a multi-band compressor, and I know there's a lot you can do with it, I'm sure, but the way that I normally use it is just by dialing in a little bit of the effect to give the top end of a sound a little more grit. And now it sounds like it needs some space. So I'm going to put chorus on the after the decapitator here, just to reduce the intensity. What it actually does is it decreases the gain of the dry signal and introduces the gain of this more stereo, more wet signal, which is a little bit of a nicer. It just dials down the overall intensity. That's not the main use for chorus, but that's sometimes the way that I use chorus. And then I'm just going to add a little bit of reverb. Ableton stock reverb onto both of these, and I'm going to place the high frequencies as the input, and then I'm going to kind of just dial in where I want the reverb to hit, which is what that diffusion network is like how the reverb sustains. That's at least how I've experienced it. I'm not sure exactly what it is. So we're really honing in there on one particular kind of background frequency, which I'm not sure if I like that. There might be a way around it. I think it might have to do with like which harmonics I'm using. But it's definitely brought about by the reverb, so I'm just going to adjust the settings on the reverb. Maybe turn it down a bit, have it be less intense. I like it without the reverb, but I'm going to turn the high end down on the reverb. I think that might have been the issue. pretty much the desired effect. I just wanted it to sit in a space. So now I've got it sitting in a space. I've got this parallel band pass filter effect rack, which is creating different voices, and it's hitting different formant frequencies as it goes, and it's being processed differently. So you've got lots of movement with all of that, but you got a unified sound because it's all being glued together by being in the same reverb space and glued together with a little bit of multiband compression on the high end, and the phaser and the auto filter, which are scrubbing through that frequency in a very unified way, so that when it gets split, you still have parts of that original patch. And then you've got this arpeggiator, which can be adjusted. So we're just going to play around with some of the things that you can do with the timing on that rate knob. Yeah. Alright guys, I hope that gave you a pretty decent idea of how somebody might go about creating some talky, stroby, formant-based stutter glitches, because that's what I just did. So if you liked it, let me know, subscribe, stay on the lookout for many more tutorials coming very soon. I'm definitely going to get back in the tutorial game. I really enjoy teaching. I really enjoy talking about the creative process. Please connect with me if you feel called to about nerding out about technology and how I create things and how you create things and sending me cool things. I'm very open about my process. So let's get in touch and keep it glitchy.